Hey everybody, still on the trail, and what I really want to bring to light right now is the idea of mobility, like nomadic living, and highlight some of the things about van life, RV life, and the movement. Well, again, when we think back to the time of Jesus, Yeshua, when he was living, breathing, walking the planet, he lived in a very small town of Nazareth in a 400 square foot house, and it was a stone house, and it was very simple. And when we think of the tiny living movement, most of the houses are deemed tiny if they are 400 square feet or less. So interesting comparison, right? And then we have the van life community, and within the van life community we have most of those structures are like 200 square feet. So again, that's even taking it 50% less than the average norm of what the living was like for people in Yeshua's time. So when we think about that, we think about, well, when you're in a 400 square foot house, you're not going to have a sofa, you're not going to have multiple beds, you're not going to have high-end kitchen cabinets and like all of those things that we take as for granted today. It just would not be part of what they would, it's just not something that they would be doing. It would be something, so I'm making a transition in here to my van. So I am now in my 200 square foot van. So what I'm getting at is there is this level of sorry, I'm trying to get my coffee here. Here we go. All right. There's this level of when you're living in a small space, and I'm just going to span this just to illustrate my point. Okay, you walk in the door, and I have this tabletop here, which is where I do my cooking. I have some storage up here, okay, storage up top, a TV, all of my electric, a fridge freezer, a chair, a Murphy bed, a closet, some more kitchen setup and storage, and rear doors. Now, that's a super quick 200 square foot. Okay, so that gives you the visual of what 200 square feet is. Okay, and with that, things are tight. Things in a van are going to move around, meaning 1 minute, I mean, like when you're getting ready to drive, you need to lock down everything. And generally speaking, when you are locking down things, these bungee cords are your friends, because things are going to move, and that's just part of the process, and you just need to just accept that that's the way that it is. So what I'm getting at is that when you're living in a small space, you need to be very clear about what are your most valuable possessions that are functional, that are going to give you sustenance, that are going to be practical, and certain things that are going to be comfortable, that are going to bring a certain level of luxury or high function. Okay, your preferences. And I could sit here and say, well, I want my goat milk powder because I like having goat milk. Well, okay, then that's something that I'm going to do. And if I say, well, I really, want my, trying to get this out here, my MCT oil, okay, because I really want that. Well, okay, is this necessity? No, this is like this is a preference. It makes me feel good, but is it a necessity? No, it's not a necessity. I would claim that the goat milk is a necessity, but the MCT oil is a preference because I could get away with olive oil, for example, or coconut oil, and that is sufficient. So what I'm getting at is that when you have to put your life into 200 square feet, you are going to have to make decisions about what you want, what you don't want. And as you navigate this, I'm going to call it van life, RV life platform or experience, you're going to quickly find out that all these things that you thought that you needed, that you brought along with you in the very beginning, you let go. You gave them away to charity and goodwill. You decided that you didn't need those things when you were traveling. And it took time to like get to that place because we're so used to having all of this extra stuff in a house that we're programmed that we need all this extra stuff. But I guess what I'm trying to say through my experience, and it's an ongoing experience, it's an ongoing letting go. You know, it's like I look at, you know, all the pots and pans that I have in my home, in my apartment, and it's excessive in comparison to the van. I mean, this is my pots and pans. This is it. This little camp stove. That's what I pack out with. That's what I use on my stove all the time. And then one cast iron pan. Like, that's it. I don't need a lot to live and to survive and to be well. But what I'm trying to say is the world is going to tell me and you that you need, you know, 2 separate colored sets of pans and pots if you're kosher or cooking kosher, and that if you don't do that, like, you're violating the law. And the reality is most of what I eat is vegetarian. It just is. And on the small occasion, if I do eat fish or meat, it's generally something that I can put in an aluminum pan or a throwaway something, and that's it. And it's not it's just this idea again of contamination. I mean, we have to go back to that time of, again, looking at everybody had one clay oven. They didn't have two, like an upper oven and a lower oven and a stove. They didn't have 2 sets of sinks. None of that was happening in the time of Jesus's time. And for us to think that we have to do all of those things to that level when Jesus and Yeshua was living in such a simplistic home, then again, when I say, well, you know, my cooking, you know, stuff that I have in this van is very simple. And, you know, I may have a couple options given the fact that, what if I run out of propane for my camp stove? Well, then I have a simple little foldable stove that I can use wood from a campsite or from the woods and start a fire and cook on that. So what I'm saying is, and then I have an electric, you know, new wave cooktop, which I can plug into my electric when I have enough sun and enough power to be able to do that. So what I'm saying is I may have 3 options and carry those 3 options with me. But what I'm getting at is that it's still an overkill compared to how people live simply in the time of Jesus, in the time of just minimalistic living, really. And when we think about how people in van life and people in RV life, they're nomadic. So let's get to that comparison. So the first part I was trying to show about structure, that if people were living in a 400 square foot house, and if that was, quote, the norm, then their living space is multi-purpose. So that would make sense that they would have a straw bed, they'd roll it up, and then the rest of that space is available for them to sit on the floor, do their sewing, their looming, you know, their grinding of the flour, all the things and all the responsibilities that were still going on throughout the day. They could do that in that same communal space. And then in the evening, when they got together for dinner, they're sitting on the floor. They didn't have high back chairs and chair coverings and chair cushions. Like, they're sitting on the floor, and they put out the grass mat and they put the food in the middle of the floor. Like, again, the simplicity of all that. So when we compare that, and that's in a structured home, like a sticks and bricks, a stone house. And then now we move to this idea of mobility and living in a van and living in an RV. These bungee cords are our friends, because when you're moving, things are going to shift. When you're sitting in a structured home that's stone or brick, things are staying where they're staying because everything isn't jostling and moving. But as soon as I start driving, if I don't have things hooked down and locked down with bungee cords, or they're drilled into space, place with screws or whatever, then everything is flying around. And again, that is something that if you were traveling in a caravan, in the time of Jesus, and we're talking about like camels, and you're riding on a horse or a donkey, and you've got supplies that are being, laid over the animal's back, and you have people on the animals, plus your supplies on the animals. Maybe you have some kind of a cart or a wagon, and your supplies are in the wagon. Like, you are going to be mindful of things falling and moving around. And if things are in glass or clay jars, you're going to need to have blankets or other things around those items to protect them so they don't break. And what I'm getting at is, people that had to travel in that fashion, they understood that things are going to move, because when you're in a mobile status and you're physically moving yourself in time and space, then things don't just stay constant, they're constantly moving. And so I think that a lot of people that don't do the van life or RV experience, they just don't understand, because they're in a sticks and bricks house that doesn't move, and they don't understand that things can break just in transit. Things can move, things can shift. And even though you screwed something into the wall and it was really tight before, you could hit a really big pothole and it just changes things, and then you have to readjust and tighten those things in again, because that pothole changed the alignment of everything. And so this is a constant ongoing thing, that you're constantly checking things, like, are they okay? Are they in place? Do I need to, firm this up even more? Now let's talk about, again, in Jesus's time, let's talk about the feasts. When they would travel to go to Jerusalem for the feast of Passover, or for the feast of Sukkot, or for tabernacles, when the men were required to go on these trips, many times the women were coming with them, because you're moving the whole family. So, and if you have your sons going, then a lot of times the wife was going too. So this was not just an only men type of a thing. This was a whole family moving and carrying their supplies by donkey and horse and camel and caravan and cart and wagon from where they lived to where Jerusalem was. And then they were living in tents. They were living outside. They might have owned a stone house, but when it came time for the feast, they were literally living in the elements. They were building their Sukkot and their tabernacle outside in the elements, and they're remembering all the provisions that they got when God took care of them, even when they lived in the desert, even when they wandered for 40 years. And that it's like their reminder that, like, hey, like, I'm giving honor to God, I'm worshiping God for this protection, and the fact that, hey, I do have this stone house now. And I try to think of that in my mindset. Like, I have my apartment, I have this physical structure of where I keep and house my things, and yet I have my van where it's 200 square feet, and I go and I have these experiences, and I minimize on purpose, and I restrict myself from certain things on purpose, so that I can find this place of peace and serenity, and humble myself and be humbled by God, that, like, I don't need all this stuff. Like, I just need God. And I know that sounds so simplistic, and yet It truly is true. Like, we think that we need all these physical things. We think that we need the newest gadget. You know, Amazon has made it so easy for us to push the buy button and have those things delivered in 24 hours. And I'm not saying that I don't do this. And I'm not saying that I haven't, you know, purchased things. I have, and I probably will continue to purchase things. But what I'm getting at is, there is something to be understood by purposefully choosing simplicity and minimalism, and forcing yourself to let go of things that you no longer need, and being able to bless other people that don't have things, and to be able to give to people that have less than what I have, and to be able to know that I'm going to be okay no matter where I am, no matter what I have. And even if I were to lose my things again, because I have lost things. I went through a flood in 2024. I lost a lot of things due to a relationship with a narcissist where he stole and financially impaired me, and I'm still climbing out of that hellhole of financial ruin that he caused to me. So what I'm saying is, we will have hard times. We will lose physical things. We will lose money. You know, we're not promised an easy life. But what I'm saying is, through that journey, through my experience of dealing with all those things, and then purposefully choosing to have this van and to have these experiences that are minimalist, and to continue to, over time, let go of the things that are in my home, and to sell those things off, and to give things away, there is this process that is happening within inside of me, which is happening within my head and my heart. And it's taking me to a deeper understanding of who Jesus is, who the Messiah is, who he is crafting me to be more like him. And for me to be more and more humbled, and to be like, you know, okay, like, I may really not need all of these high-end expensive things that I once put my money to. And what I mean by that is, for example, there was a long period of my life where I would highlight or color my hair, you know, based on whatever I was doing in life at that time with my career. And it's expensive, you know, $100 here and $275 there. And it just becomes this thing that, like, because you have long hair, it's like they take advantage of you because you have long hair. It's not like I'm, you know, I'm not asking for some crazy style. I'm not getting any layers in or whatever. But the point is, it's about what the market will bear and what people will pay. And I was paying those exorbitant costs to get my hair done for a long time. And now, in the past 5 years, I have really simplified, and I have been doing my own hair and buying a package and literally coloring my own hair. And I'm just saying that it's been a procedure, a process of letting go, of like going from like a really high-end, you know, hair salon to like a medium to like a hair cuttery, to then like, I'm not even gonna let them cut my hair anymore. Like $40 to get my hair cut and not even have my hair shampooed or styled or dried, and it's $40 just for somebody to take scissors and cut off those ends. Like, I'm not paying that anymore. I'll do it myself. So what I'm saying is, there comes a time when you just look at the system, you look at the way society is going, and then you choose, like, how do I really want to, you know, invest my money and save my money, and do I want to spend it on these things? And for me, my answer is no. I'll cut my own hair, or have, you know, someone that I know and trust cut the ends of my hair for me, and pay them $10, you know, and be done with it. I will, you know, do my own hair and color it, or let the color grow out, you know, like, okay, my roots are darker and the color is coming out here, and that's okay, you know, and I'm okay with that. And, you know, I'm not all crazy about having to have this look of perfection. It's all phony and fake anyway. So I'm going to continue to just be me. So, in the way that God is creating me to be, and how he believes that I'm beautiful, and beautiful in the heart. And that will, you know, continue to come out over time. So what I'm getting at is, coming back to the tiny living, I'm sorry I got sidetracked. So, there's this idea that if Jesus lived in a 400 square foot stone house in a poor, impoverished town that had a bad rep, Nazareth, and he was a stone carpenter, someone that did grueling labor, Okay, and if that's the role that he took, the place that he took in society, the lowest role, and then he challenged everything. He challenged the religious teachings of the synagogue and of the teachers. He challenged the crowds and the people to ask themselves the deep questions through his parables and through his teachings. And he asks us, you know, to look at him and look at his life and say, you know, this is who he is, and who am I in relation to him, and how am I behaving in relation to him. And I'm not saying that you're not allowed to have an abundant life, and I'm not saying that you need to move into a 400 square foot stone house, and I'm not saying you need to move into a 200 square foot van. What I am saying is that look into what you have in your life and really ask yourself, are these things really supporting me and my lifestyle and my family? Like, or are they just distractions? Are they just me buying into the world dogma of what the world thinks I should be doing? And what does God really want me to be doing with my time and my resources and my focus and my attention? So I leave you with that. I thank you for being on the journey with me. And if you want any more information about van life or RV life or simplifying, getting to a level of minimalism, some of the things that I do within my life coaching focus is to help people ask those difficult questions. I can do this over the phone on a Zoom call, helping people, like literally talking them through a room, or physically driving to them and helping them physically manage their stuff and clear it out and get to a place of, you know, new beginnings and letting go. So if any of those things are of interest to you, please make a comment and I will send you some information and a link of how we can connect, either on the phone through Zoom or in person. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And if you could do a thumbs up for liking this video and making a comment, it would really help the channel grow. Thank you so much. Bye.